Through the grind of an 82-game regular season and 4 rounds of playoff hockey, there can only be one champion. As the New York Islanders continue their drive for 5, we encourage you to listen in as we discuss everything going on with your favorite team. From allislanders.com, this is the All Islanders Podcast with Chris, David, Jared, and Scott.
Hey guys, welcome back to the All Islanders Podcast. We've done 6 episodes today, and we've had Arthur Staple and Andy Graziano on, and right now we have another amazing guest on. This guest has his own podcast, the Islanders Point Blank Podcast, and his name is Brian Compton. We are very excited to have him on, but before that, he's actually going to be calling us today. So we're going to start with, 5-10 minutes of our own talk, and then he'll call in, and we'll stop what we're talking about to welcome him. So I'm going to go with my first topic today. It's going to be about Ryan Pulock. It seems like for 2 years now, it's been why hasn't he up? Why isn't he up? Why is he down? It's been a huge deal. And Jared, I'm going to go to you. Just ask this straight up. Why isn't Ryan Pulock on the Islanders?
That is a pretty simple answer, in my opinion. That is due to the knowledge that Garth Snow trusts Adam Pelech and Scott Mayfield more. And to be quite honest, I disagree. I think Ryan Pulock should be up, but it's ultimately Garth Snow's opinion. Obviously, he sees something we don't. I prefer Ryan Pulock, but that's me. I have nothing else to say, but I think Pulock should be up.
Yeah, that's a good point that you brought up. I feel like Mayfield and Pelech had their time, and they were doing really well, but unfortunately they just have fallen off a little bit, and I think the Islanders need a spark to their lineup. Scott, how do you feel about the whole Pulock situation?
If Garth Snow doesn't call him up now, we're never going to see Ryan Pulock as a New York Islander ever again.
Ooh,
calling him right now, if he does not get called up and he plays the rest of the season, scratches Seidenberg, scratches Mayfield, scratches heck, scratch guys like Hamonic. They need time to get their minds together and say, hey, we're not going to the playoffs. Next year's our year. So, if he doesn't, and he doesn't see what Pulock can do at the NHL level on a power play with Tavares, Lee, Leddy, and Hosang, then I could see him going to Vegas. I don't know about you guys, but I could see them leaving him open.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to leave him open just because George McPhee's the general manager there, and I really don't think that they're going to trust that he won't take him. He knows the Islanders more than any other GM in the league besides Garth Snow, and he knows what Pulock can be, and I honestly don't think the Islanders are going to leave him exposed. I really think they're either going to trade him in a Duchesne deal, they're going to trade him for draft picks, or they're going to find a way to protect 4 people. They'll find a way. But Brian Compton's calling in right now, guys. We're going to go to him quickly.
Brian?
Yes.
Hi, this is Scott.
Hey, Scott.
How are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fine. So, it's 4 of us on the podcast today. Let's just introduce ourselves by our voice, and so you could pick up on who's who. So, who wants to go first?
I'll go.
David?
Yeah, my name's David. We're really honored to have you on. Thank you so much for giving your time tonight, even though the game's on.
You got it, man. No problem.
I'll go. Hi, my name is Jared. Pleasure to have you on tonight.
Sorry about that. And lastly, I'm Chris, and just the same as the other 2 guys said. Thanks for coming on.
You got it, Chris. Thanks, man.
Well, before we get to our first question, let's just let the fans know. The Philadelphia Flyers just scored their 4th goal in the first 10 minutes of the New York Islanders game.
Yeah, that's tough. But we're gonna
Sounds great. Sounds great. Playoff hopes are over.
Scott.
Let's move on. Next year. Until next year.
Try to keep positive.
Okay.
Come on, we're going to keep positive
Try
on
to
this
keep
episode.
positive. You know what? Let's just keep positive. But let's move on to our first question with you, Brian. Dave, obviously they've worked their way up from the bottom of the standings, but they've been struggling, obviously, and they came up. They had a nice run, but the power play, even with it looking a little bit better, has been a problem. Besides calling up Ryan Pollock, which we all agree should happen, what else could you see to help improve? Like, would you like to see Josh Hosang playing more with Tavares?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's something that's going to happen more next season. It looks like they're not going to make the playoffs the way this is going, and it obviously depends on what kind of moves is made over the course of the summer, but you would like to think Ryan Pulak will be here next year, and once he's here, that should improve the power play immensely, because there's that 102-mile-an-hour slap shot that he has. You put a guy in front of the net for redirections and screens and all that good stuff, and the creativity that Hosang has shown along the half wall there since he got called up a couple weeks ago, it looks promising for sure, but we have to find out what this roster looks like come September.
Now, obviously, you see that Pollock does have that slap shot, and you could see a guy like Anders Lee obviously being in front of the net because that's what he's done on the power play recently. Do you still see Lee and Tavares with Hosang and Pollock and maybe Letty at that top 5 power play unit, or that first power play unit this year?
Yeah, I mean that's the way it should. With the guys that they have, for these last few games, I think that's what we should see. And then again, it all depends on what this team looks like next season. I have a pretty strong feeling that the way this is going, there's going to be some changes. They're going to obviously lose somebody in the expansion draft, whether it's Ryan Strome or Brock Nelson, somebody along those lines. So, I would expect some changes to come over the course of the summer, and we'll see what the power play looks like once those changes are made.
Yeah, so I agree with everything you're saying, and I just want to say your Twitter is very entertaining, and I got to say your podcast too is entertaining. And listening to the last episode, when you said that Pullock getting called up, if the Islanders lose the next 2 or whatever and they're out of it, him getting called up would just be really sad. And you bringing that up I don't know, that just scares me. I don't really want to see that day.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen now. Doug kind of hinted at it yesterday that Ryan's not going to get called up, and like you said, if it happens now, it just wouldn't make any sense. That ship sailed 3 weeks ago, so I think the Sound Tigers are still somewhat in the playoff mix, and I think the goal is for Ryan to continue to play top 4 minutes over these next 2 weeks for Bridgeport, and hopefully the Sound Tigers can find a way into the postseason.
Okay, yeah, we follow the Sound Tigers a lot here, so if the Islanders are out of it, I guess the Sound Tigers making it will be the next best thing. So I just want to move on to the offseason a little bit. You said that there may be changes, but from what I've heard from other articles, it seems like the Islanders may be tempted by their young prospects with Dal Cole and Hosang and their defensemen. Do you think that maybe they'll have too much depth and may be hesitant to go out and make a big trade or sign a big free agent?
I don't think they can be hesitant anymore. You know what I mean? They've been hesitant forever, fellas. I mean, it's time for this organization to take the next step. What that cost would be to get a guy like Matt Duchene, I don't know. It would obviously cost one of these young guys and more. They have not replaced Franz Nielsen. That is one of the biggest reasons why they are where they are. Franz did everything for this hockey team. They can't just be John Tavares and then a couple other centers. Franz was one of the better number 2 centers in the league, killed penalties, was great in the shootout. If you guys remember, he actually played on the left wing with Tavares for a little bit there in the playoffs because they needed somebody on that left side. Whatever they asked Franz to do, he did it, and he did it well. And they just were never able to replace him, and a lot of the focus was all about Tyler Poso and Andrew Ladd. But at the end of the day, the biggest hole in this hockey team since last July 1st has been their inability to replace Franz Nielsen.
Yeah. Franz Nielsen has been a big loss, and just sticking with the offseason, I hate to be the negative one, but something that, we've been really given a lot of success as Islander fans over the last 2 years, and it's almost new that they've been struggling lately and this year. And with the Islanders having, this mini collapse as it looks like if they don't win tonight, and hopefully not getting into the playoffs, hopefully making the playoffs, but that may not happen. Do you think that if the John Tavares situation gets a little antsy and it may seem like there's not a lot of movement there, do you think that the Islanders will look to trade Tavares on July 1st? Because Andy Graziano and Arthur Staple, two writers that we've had on the podcast, have hinted that, and honestly, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, I don't see it, guys. I really don't. I think it's franchise suicide trading John Tavares, to be perfectly honest. This is really the one guy that has gone right for this organization in the last, 15, 20 years? I mean, let's be honest. So to trade John Tavares would just be, I just can't even fathom it, to be perfectly honest. And I know you can't lose him for nothing. I get what everybody who's writing this up is good. I know why they're saying what they're saying, but where do you go after you trade John Tavares, and who are you going to get to take the next step immediately? It can't be about rebuilds anymore. I mean, that's the word that this franchise has been hearing about forever. It's time to take the next step, and they kind of did that last year when they finally won a playoff series, and they're right back to probably missing the playoffs again this year, and you take Tavares out of the mix. You can't convince me that they're going to be a playoff team next year, so this is something they have to figure out. And like I said on my show, if Garth can't get this done within the first week of July, they have to make a change, and he cannot be permitted by John Ledecky and Scott Malkin to trade their franchise player.
Yeah, I'm glad I heard that, because it feels like what we've been reading lately, I know it's all rumors, but it feels like Tavares isn't getting valued as much. I completely agree. I feel like the issue that looking for a trade presents is if Tavares hears about that the Islanders are shopping him, that would just be such a disrespect to him that I feel like that would stop the relationship, and it would really hurt the Islanders in the future, and teams may even see the desperation. That situation's terrible. So just want to ask something about Garth Snow. Do you think that if, as you said, with that first week comes, do you possibly think that Ledecky could have too much of a loyalty towards him? I feel like he's let him do what he kind of wants, and it hasn't really gone the Islanders' way this year. Do you think that Ledecky could possibly, his loyalty to Garth Snow, really hurt him?
No, I don't think so. The one thing that I'm curious about really is they had bought into this team 2 years ago. Yes, they didn't have majority ownership, but they've seen Garth at work for a couple of years. So I don't buy into this whole thing that he's still trying to figure out how Garth runs the team and all that stuff. But I don't think that John has any strong, loyal ties to Garth Snow. I think at the end of the day, he spent a lot of money for this franchise, he and Scott Malkin. They've got to convince their fan base that they're serious about going in a certain direction, in the right direction. And this has been a step back. And again, is Garth going to get fired the day after the season? I don't think so. But I think Garth is kind of tied here to John Tavares a little bit. And like I said, if Garth can't find a way to sign John, and really, let's be honest, the owners are going to give John whatever he wants as far as money goes. So if John doesn't want to sign here, that tells you how he feels about the way that this franchise is headed, and that should tell John Ledecky we need to make some changes in the front office, because if John Tavares is not happy with the way the direction's going, that should be a telltale sign that changes need to be made in the front office.
All right, so Jared, we can go to you. You can ask what you want to ask.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the offseason for a minute. So Doug Waite has been a big part of the team this year. And do you think Doug Waite will be the coach of the Islanders next year, or be in the front office, or maybe both? I mean, I just want to know what you think.
I think if he wants to coach, he will be the coach. I think he's done enough here. I know it looks bad tonight, obviously, and what's happened in the past couple of games. But, I had this team buried months ago. I think a lot of people did. I mean, the first half was awful. And he found a way to get the guys back into the mix, so that's a good sign. I think he is a good coach. I think they need to make some changes on their roster. I think they need a little bit more help on their blue line and a little bit more help at the center position more than anything else. But I think Doug has done enough here to show that he can coach in this league. I think it ultimately is a matter of does he want to be the coach, and I'm not sure that he does or he doesn't. He was very honest with us when he first got the job. He said he was going to do this for a day, a week, a couple of months to see how he likes it. I think he's enjoying himself, but he looked really exhausted after the Nashville game the other night. So I don't know if that's a sign that he doesn't want to do this next year, but clearly it's a stressful job, and I don't know if it's something he wants to do long term. We'll probably find out, within the first couple of weeks after the season's over.
Yeah, and you mentioned the exhaustion that is present around the Islanders right now, and I really like how you said that even Waite's exhausted. And if you think Waite's exhausted, how do you think these players are? So when you look at the current season, you look at the game right now, how exhausted are they? But also, when you're an exhausted team, this is their livelihood. As Anders Lee wrote in his Players Tribune article, he says, "I'm not tough. I'm a hockey player. This is his livelihood. This is his job." So do you think they need to find a way to put the exhaustion behind them and just really, not get tired, even though it's so hard? But how do you feel that the exhaustion has played a part in this collapse right now?
I'm sure it's played a role. I mean, look, they were done, like I said, or at least I thought they were done a couple of months ago, and they did work their way back into the mix here. But a lot of teams have. You look what Carolina's done over the past month. I'm sure those guys are tired too, but they keep finding ways to win. So they're paid to play. They're paid very good money to play a game that they love, and in September that you're going to be tired at this time of year. So it's not like it smacked them in the face and they didn't expect to be tired. So they do need to find a way. Again, it doesn't look good that they're as far as their postseason hopes go, but they should still at least try to finish strong and show that they're going to make some changes during the summer and get better. There's still a lot of work clearly that needs to be done here, but as far as the exhaustion goes, everybody's tired. All 30 teams are tired, but you have to plug through and you have to find ways to win.
So Chris, you can go next. I know you've been waiting to ask Brian something.
So back to the whole Tavares thing. I know we amongst ourselves have said this is what they should do and basically have to do. But what are the chances that Garth goes in there with a checkbook and says, "Hey, write what you want. I mean, like, you're our franchise guy. We'll give you what you want."
100%. Ultimately, I don't even think it's Garth guys. I think it's more John Ledecky. If they know that they can't afford to lose John Tavares. Is it going to be a blank check? I think it probably could be. I think in a realistic world, he's going to get something similar to what Steven Stamkos got last year from Tampa. I think it was 8 years, $68 million, something along those lines. So I'm sure John knows that already. Maybe he gets a little bit more to stay in New York. But again, if he doesn't sign with the Islanders, it's not going to be because John Ledecky and Scott Malkin are being cheap. It's going to be because he doesn't like the way that this direction is headed, which again is going to fall on Garth's shoulders, as it should. Because let's face it, this guy has had 11 years to get this right. It looked like he was starting to get it right when they won a playoff round last year. But he had a really bad offseason. It carried over into the regular season with the 3-goal lead nonsense and everything else. The whole thing with Yarrow and Bridgeport and not calling up Ryan Pulock when Johnny Boychuk went down. There's been a lot of mistakes by this GM over the past 12 months, and you have to wonder if John Tavares is saying to himself, am I going to win a Stanley Cup with this franchise? And if he does not sign with the Islanders, it's going to be for that reason. It's not going to be because the Islanders weren't willing to pay him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's just crazy to imagine, but the whole blank check thing, I've heard that. I never heard that word more than I've heard it, talking about the possibility of Tavares re-signing. And I really hope they give him the blank check, as everyone said, because he needs to be an Islander. And just asking about John Ledecky, I've seen him at the games. I've said hi to him. He seems like a really nice guy. But one thing that's kind of crazy in terms of the players is the whole arena thing that's going around, the whole new owners, especially with Tavares in his career. It's been so much craziness with the off-the-ice issues. How do you feel that the off-the-ice issues Tavares not even knowing where he could be playing in 2 years, that type of thing. How do you feel that could play a role in his decision to re-sign with us?
I think, yeah, Chris, I think he can have a huge impact, and you know what? It should. John Tavares has a right to know where he's going to play his home games in 2 years. I think that's a fair request. I've always stuck to my guns. I don't think they're ever leaving this area. I think, worst case scenario, they redo their deal with Barclays and stay there long term. But that's one thing that probably needs to happen this summer at some point, hopefully before July 1st, so Tavares knows before they can start renegotiating, where is this team going to play? Is it going to be at Belmont? Are they going to build an arena? Which I hope happens, because the Islanders, I think, deserve their own building a little bit closer to Nassau and Suffolk County, so the fans out here can get to their home games a little bit easier. But, I think John Tavares has the right to know where this team is going to be in a couple of years, and will it get sorted out over the next few months? I don't know. I find it hard to believe that it will, just because of all the political nonsense that we've all dealt with forever out here. But clearly, John Tavares has the right to know where this franchise is going to be playing its home games in a couple of years.
Yeah. The Belmont thing's great. Brooklyn was tough for some people. I think it was a good temporary thing, but I really find it interesting how, Arthur Staple was on this podcast, and this was right when it was announced that they wouldn't be, that they would be kicked out, quote. And I really think it's interesting how he said he was right off the bat. He said, "I don't buy this because I think there's going to be a reworking, because he wants to see that the Islanders get their own arena." And that obviously takes time. You look at the Vegas Raiders. I mean, they need 3 years to build a stadium. You look at the Islanders, they're going to need some time to build a stadium. So it may look like that we're in Brooklyn a little longer than you think. And how do you think that Tavares, I don't know, you're around the team more than we are, but how do you think Tavares and mainly the players, I know they're very positive about it in the public eye, but how do you feel that they like the whole living on Long Island, commuting to Brooklyn for games, practicing? How do you think they like the craziness that is their day-to-day life?
They're totally fine with it. It's so overblown, guys, I can tell you. And John Tavares, when he went to go play for Canada at the World Cup in September, he was talking to guys on other teams. Drew Doughty was telling them how, they practice in El Segundo, which I'm not familiar with the whole LA area. I've only been there once, but they have a very similar commute. The Rangers have a similar commute. Not all the Rangers live in Manhattan. A lot of them live in Westchester, and they go down to Manhattan for their games. So this whole thing has been blown out of proportion for so long. Some of them take the train to the game. They usually get to Brooklyn around 6 o'clock. And then I see the cars, guys. When I walk from the media room down to the Islanders locker room, it's a pretty long walk. And on the way to the locker room, you see all the cars waiting for them. They get car services home, and they're probably home in 35 minutes, which is a pretty darn good commute if you live in New York City. So it's really not that big of a deal.
Okay, that's pretty, we're just writers. We write for a site, so we don't know much, but I guess that's why you have the media pass, because you know that stuff. So that's really interesting. And honestly, it feels like, we speculate that that's a huge deal, but I guess it's not. So, Jared, I don't know if you want to ask a question, but you can move on to what you want to ask.
Okay, so I'm going to bring the topic towards the goalies. So last year, we had no idea what was going to happen with the goalies this year with a 3-goalie system. And obviously, from what we've seen, it hasn't worked out that well. So what do you think happens to the goalies next year, specifically with Halak? Or this offseason, sorry.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think if Garth could trade him, he will. I think there's a pretty decent chance that their goaltending next year is what it looks like right now, minus Jay Berube. Berube's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He's going to sign somewhere else. But, at $4.5 million, there's a pretty good chance Yarrow is back, and they're going to have to figure out a way to split those guys, whether Grice gets 50 games and Halak gets 32 or more, half and half, however it's going to work out. But I think Yarrow would ultimately like to be somewhere else, but I think there's a decent chance that he's still here.
Yeah, so moving on to something, not moving on, just keeping the same topic, but just something that, I've been listening to your podcast, and I really thought your conversation on Brock Nelson was interesting. The end of the last podcast a day or two ago, and you said that the Islanders, you and Mike said that the Islanders would be happy for Brock Nelson to get claimed. And do you feel like the Islanders are obviously you feel this, but they're probably getting fed up with how he's just died at the end of seasons and has given them nothing. But do you think that the Islanders would rather have him stay as a third line type player or be maybe traded?
Weeks or months at a time, and it's happening again at the worst possible time, obviously. So I don't see any way that he's protected at the expansion draft. Doesn't mean he's going to get claimed by Vegas, but I think he's going to be the Celtics. If he's not, maybe he gets moved in the deal. I don't know, but with Matthew Barzal knocking on the door, there's got to be room for Barzal to play somewhere. He's not going to be a bottom six forward, I don't think. That's not his game. So it makes the most sense for Nelson to go somewhere else and for Barzal to slip into that spot, barring a trade for a guy like Matthew Shane or somebody like that.
All right, so Jared, you can ask what you want to ask.
So, over the last few games, we've seen that Dennis Seidenberg really has been playing all that smart hockey. I mean, it's just been surprising, This year started off great. He was probably our top point-scoring defenseman, and then towards the end of the season, he's gone downhill. I just want to hear, what you think has gone on with him and stuff.
I think he's probably just running out of gas. I mean, this is a guy who's up in age, and I think the start of the year was, that's not really Seidenberg's game to put up the points that he did. It was kind of icing on the cake because he was playing pretty well on his own ends, and then to put up points, I don't think anybody expected that. So, like I said, I think he's just running out of gas here a little bit, which for me makes the whole pull-off thing even more frustrating because, like I've been saying on my show, fellas, and thank you for listening, I appreciate it. It's just not. There's not it's not as though what they have here is so much better. The depth chart, you can say that Pulak is 9th or 10th, but at the end of the day, going from 10 to 6 or 5 on this depth chart is not a huge leap because it's not a great gap in talent. So they really missed the boat here, I think, with Ryan Pulak, and I know that he's not going to be the shutdown guy, but the power play has been dreadful, as you guys know, and it really hurt their chances of making the playoffs here down the stretch.
Okay, so I'm going to hop in here talking about defensive prospects. I don't know if you've been following what's going on in the WHL playoffs. David Quenneville has been breaking out. Do you see him coming up to Bridgeport in the near future before his contract in the WHL is done?
As soon as I don't know how old he is, but as soon as he's old enough, that's where he's going to go next. I know he was what, a 7th round pick, so I don't know how that's going to translate to the NHL game. Hopefully he makes it, and if it turns out to be a great story. But I think more realistically, you're looking at guys like Witherspoon and Mitch Van de Soppel, those higher round picks. I think, and obviously Devontae's and Bridgeport is having a hell of a year for those guys, which is great to see. So I think those are the more realistic guys that are playing for the Islanders someday. Because you look at these older guys putting up points in junior, that happens a lot. And then it just turns out to be because they're 3 or 4 years older than a lot of the kids that they're playing against. And that's a huge gap at that age when you're 19 or 20 and you're playing against 16-year-olds.
Yeah, so obviously, funny thing is, apparently part of the rumor of why they drafted him is because he's related to Johnny Boychuk, which I found really funny. But talking more about prospects, Van de Soppel, obviously this is his last year in the OHL, so he gets to move over to Bridgeport next year. He joins that really good defense corps. Possibly guys like LaFranchise, who are AHL guys, maybe out, so they are more defensively focused with prospects. But another prospect who is in the Frozen Four, I still think, right now, Kiefer Bellows. I know guys like Tyson Jost and Clayton Keller, guys like that, have been done with the playoffs in college, and they're able to come, and now they're making their NHL debut. Do you see Bellows doing that in the near future?
Not for at least another year. Sounds like he was going to go back to school whenever BU season was over, so I don't think he's ready yet. He's numbers weren't great. He did have a good World Junior tournament, which is obviously very encouraging. But he's a couple of years away from playing for the Islanders. And yeah, a lot of these college guys, if they come out, it's usually after their sophomore year. And if they don't come out after the sophomore year, they usually just stay, which is also possible. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe he wants to get his degree. I don't know what his game plan is, but he's a few years away from playing for the Islanders for sure.
Yes, that's interesting. I like how he brought up prospects. Islanders, just an update into the game. Islanders on pace to lose 15-0 right now. So, prospects are going to be the big talk of the offseason or whatever because right now it's not looking good for the playoffs. But I just want to ask again, thank you for coming on. I just want to ask you more of a personal question. We all listen to your podcast. It's great. And we just kind of started this podcast as a spur-of-the-moment thing. We already have had Graziano and Staple on, and it's really been a huge success. But, we do it on phones and Skype. But one thing I want to know is how can we really, grow it like you grew yours without the resources that you may have?
That's a great question. I'm very fortunate. The podcast is more of a side gig. Obviously, as you guys know, my main job is with NHL.com covering the Islanders. So, I think that's why the show has been more successful than anything else. Is just because of the resources that I have, knowing the guys, knowing PR guys, having a pretty solid fan base on Twitter for the most part. Some people don't like me very much if you guys follow me on Twitter, which is fine. It kind of comes with it. But I guess the only advice I can give you guys is just keep doing what you're doing and love what you're doing. Have fun with it. The more passion that you bring, the more fun you're going to have and the bigger audience you're going to get. Sounds like you guys are very knowledgeable about the team, which is great. That's the first step because if you don't know what you're talking about, your audience is going to pick up on it pretty quick. So just keep watching the team, keep up with all the stats and all the prospects like you guys just did with me, which is great. I'm very impressed, and just have fun. The main thing is that you guys are still kids, right? You're all still in high school.
Yeah, high school.
Yeah, high school.
So make sure that you guys have fun as kids, because you only get that once. I'm going to be 40 in a few months, which is very depressing. And the only thing I can tell you as an old man is enjoy being teenagers, have some fun, and try to go to good colleges who have good communications programs. If that's the road you guys want to go down, and just keep plugging away and keep doing what you're doing and have a good time. Have fun with it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And honestly, you're only helping us make it bigger. Having you on was a tremendous honor. It was great that you were so, vocal about your opinions with a bunch of kids. But that was really great. Thank you so much for everything.
You got it, guys. Have a good night. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, thank you
so much for coming on.
You got it. See ya.
All right, guys, that was Brian Compton. He is the Islanders writer and a managing editor at NHL.com, host of the Islanders Point Blank podcast. Go check that out. You can find the link in his Twitter account, or you could go search it up. Now let's get to the fun stuff. Let's hand it over to Jared, David, and Chris. I'm gonna take a little seat back because I don't want to rant about Tavares. I just want to hear you guys rant about Tavares.
Okay, so I'll take it first. Tavares is our Lord and Savior. He's our captain. He's amazing, but here's what I got to say about him. I don't care how hard he plays, whatever he does, he's the captain of this team. They are on pace to lose 15-0 right now. I mean, it's the end of the first period in the Flyers game. I mean, they are done. The playoffs are over. They're done. We could all admit that. They got to go win out, which they're not. They are done. I don't care how tired you are. This is their life. Tavares needs to rally up the troops and make sure they're not giving up 5 goals in the first period. I mean, this is such a disaster of a game that this is the type of game I wrote an article trashing Tavares a bit, talking about the Bruins game, and I said if the Islanders miss the playoffs for a 5th time since Tavares has been in the NHL, Islanders fans will need to start sweating about the future of their favorite star. And honestly, we better start sweating, because do you think he's not, when he's sitting at the negotiating table with Garth Snow, who's taken away his best friends? I mean, you got to think, this guy,
2 best friends.
what is it? I don't remember. His godfather, was it? Matt Molson was the godfather to his baby or whatever? His kid? I don't even know how it works. He was the godfather of Matt Molson's kid. I mean, these Garth Snow has stabbed John Tavares in the back so many times. You think you see those pictures of him with Franz Nielsen in a post with the All-Star game. He was smiling. I mean, they just showed a picture of Tavares on MSG. He was disgusted. And honestly, I'm scared about the future of this team. He is, I don't want to say he's given up, but his face is not a face you want to see out of your captain. And I'm very scared about the end of the season. I'm very scared about this offseason. And if we thought last offseason was bad, imagine when we see the report that, Garth Snow has inquired about John Tavares. I mean, it's such a disaster. It's a disgrace. Brian Compton always says, it's a disgrace on a show. And there has been, when he's talking about various topics, and there has never been more of a disgrace than what is going on right now. I mean, they are showing no effort. They came back from such a hole in this season, and they're giving it all away. They're going to get passed by the Flyers. They're going to be 12th in the Eastern Conference. It's over. I've been very positive the last 3 years, but it is over. We're done. So, Jared, you could take the floor, but it's over. It's done.
I love this team. I love the players. I've met a bunch of the players. They're all nice guys. But my God, when they put on a shit show, they put on a shit show. This is by far the worst first period of hockey I've seen by any team in I don't know how many years. And for the first time in forever, I'm really tempted to turn the game off and not watch the rest of it because this team is not making the playoffs. And all I'm hopeful for right now, and I've thought about this for the last 10 minutes, is maybe the Yankees have a shot that they can win their 28th World Series title because that's about as lucky I'll get this year.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, they're just like, it's just like, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, why aren't they playing with desperation? I had the game off, actually, as we were interviewing Brian Compton, and I don't know what's going on. I just saw Tavares' face. I just saw a picture of Tavares' face. And just looking at that picture, I know that this season's over, and I just pray. All Islander fans are so cocky almost in them saying, oh, Tavares is coming back. But what's Tavares' motivation for coming back? Josh Hosang, who shows up late to practice? I mean, what's his motivation? An amazing defensive core of Adam Pelech and Scott Mayfield instead of Ryan Pulock? Is he motivated to play with Josh Bailey? Or is he motivated to go to the Maple Leafs? Is he motivated to go anywhere? I mean, why is John Tavares, after these last 3 games, 0 for 6 on a power play, killed by Nashville, 2 backup goalies, now they're getting killed by Philly, 5-0. They're on pace to lose 15-0. This is going to be another 10-0 game. I mean, it's just such a sad, sad reality that Islanders fans are living in. We were teased, and I really, really hope this offseason is better than the end of this season because John Tavares is, I don't know. I don't want to say it, but John Tavares.
I'll say it for you. You think he's going to be gone?
I don't think he's going to be gone. I don't. I'm very positive, but right now I was stabbed in the heart, not the back. I was stabbed in the heart because it's just like they're not trying. I know they're exhausted. I know Aiden, one of our writers in a chat that we have, said they're exhausted. That's all there is to it. They're dead. But as Brian Compton said, every team's dead. This is their life. They need to put it behind them and just they need to try harder. They're not trying, and it's obvious. And I don't know. Tavares, I hope he doesn't leave. I don't think he will, but he's going to be tempted.
I'm going to pick it up from here, and I'm just going to start talking about the absolute trash the players have been playing. I mean, look, they're obviously good. They've made it so far in hockey, but some of these players over the last 2 weeks have showed that all their common sense for this game has just been somewhere else. I mean, I've seen players throw pucks up the middle of the ice, and they're playing well, but it's the little things that I'm getting annoyed with. I see players putting pucks up to the middle of the ice, and it's creating goals, or they're just not even racing for the puck and just letting the other team get it. And it's frustrating. It's really frustrating to see a team do that you love to watch. I mean, I spend 2.5 hours, probably 3 days a week, watching these games, and what do I get? The Islanders about to lose again. I mean, it's just sad. It makes me sad to see my favorite team, who went for the last 2 years doing so well, proving people wrong, to just playing terribly this year. It's sad, and I couldn't be more upset in the sloppiness of the play.
Jared, you just said that players aren't, giving their hardest, and their head's not in it. And I like how you didn't name specific players right now, because you could have easily said Dennis Seidenberg. You could have easily said Pellick. You could have easily said Mayfield. You could have said even some of our forwards. But the way you got to look at it is there's not one player responsible for this. Tavares isn't responsible for this. I don't want you guys thinking that we hate John Tavares. It's just that he's the captain, so this goes on him. But, you look at the whole team, and you look at the effort the whole team has put in, that Waite has, led them on, the effort that they're giving right now, and you really just, that it seems like the locker room isn't there. It seems like as a whole team, and hockey's a team sport, it's not an individual sport, the team isn't meant to make the playoffs, and they're not meant to go far. So the offseason's going to be very interesting, whoever's leading it, but I don't know, dude. I just, it's going to be a very interesting year for Islanders fans. That's what I'm going to leave it on.
Yeah, I completely agree with that whole fact, and just on the point that they're just not showing their hardest. It's honestly undescribable. Like, I honestly don't think I've ever seen a team that is literally in a do or die situation where even if they do, or even if they did win tonight, maybe wouldn't have made it anyway. Just, I don't know. I don't really want to say they're just full out not trying, considering I know at least 2 of these goals have gone off of Boychuk, but I don't think I've ever seen anything like it where they give up 5 goals in a period where it's an absolute must-win game, and I'm almost at a loss of words for it.
Yeah, I mean, we try, when we're doing these podcasts, we try to, we don't talk about the game. We try to mute the game in the background if we're even watching it, and we don't talk about it because we just want to talk about, the Islanders at the moment and not reference games. But, when you see that you're losing 5-0 in the most important game of the year, I'm sure Mr. Compton had it on in the background. I mean, I'm amazed. I don't even know what to say, because it's just, I've said this so many times, they're on pace to lose 15-0 right now. It's the most important game of the season. And the season ends today. It is March 29th. March 30th. Oops, botched that one. But it's March 30th. And we're going to remember this date for a while, because this is the date that the Islanders missed the playoffs. This is the date that possibly spiraled the breakup between the Islanders and John Tavares. This is the date that, possibly led to Garth Snow being fired. This is the date that's going to have such an impact on the Islanders' future that it's, as you say, it's indescribable how bad they're playing, but it's also indescribable the effect that this will have. I mean, losing 5-0. There's going to be changes next game. There's going to be changes next season. And, it's going to be an interesting day. So, Scott, what are your opinions on the debacle that's taking place right now?
And I quote, "Hockey players are known for being tough. We play with broken ribs, lose teeth, and don't miss a shift. Get stitches mid-game and come back as soon as possible from everything that keeps us off the ice. But at the end of the day, we play a game for a living. All of our broken bones and bruises heal." Anders Lee, "Hockey players aren't tough," on the Players Tribune. He put that out yesterday. This was describing his 26-year journey of overcoming everything. And he said that when he overcame it, it was last year. Last year, when he was not able to play in the playoffs with the New York Islanders. And he came in and said that he met a kid once His name is Fena Pierre-Louis, and he has stage 4 neuroblastoma, and he became his best inspiration, and this led to his Cancer Jam fundraiser a couple weeks ago. Anders Lee is just an amazing guy, and he loves being an Islander. He loves doing this. This is his job, and to see him in the penalty box right now because of a fight with Wayne Simmons with 6.3 seconds left at the end of the first, it's disappointing. I don't feel bad for John Tavares right now. I feel bad for Anders Lee, and I feel bad for other guys like Nick Leddy and Johnny Boychuk. I feel bad for guys that are the outspoken leaders in the locker room. I feel bad for the guys that gives it their all on the ice. Tavares is not giving it his all anymore. He wants this season over. And like I said, in episode 3, I think it was, of the podcast, Phil Kessel was dealt to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Maple Leafs got the first-round pick that they traded for Frederik Andersen and Kasperi Kapanen. That is about all they got for him. Now, what he do at the end of the year? He won a Stanley Cup. Now, what if we go in at the end of next year, end of this year even, and I'm going to reiterate what I said. Hey, Mike Babcock here talking to you on the phone. How about you want to come here and play with the nice Austin Matthews, or Will Nylander, Mitch Marner, James Van Riemsdyk, or you could go to Arizona and play with Max Domi, but that's not going to happen. You could go to the Kings. You could go anywhere with any players that are better than who he's playing with on the first line right now. And Cal Clutterbuck just scored. It's 5-1.
Yay. Okay,
Yay!
so that's a big
Now
goal.
we're on pace to lose 15-2.
Okay, big goal. But here's what I want to say. I really like how you started that, with the referencing Lee, because it seems like that's almost like was meant to rally them up. I don't know, but it seems like that there's a lot of symbolism there. It seems like, we're not, this is a job, this is their livelihood, and it seems like, right now they've given up. But I said this about 5 minutes ago. We're not here to trash John Tavares. He's our captain. A lot of this is on him. But here's the thing: John Tavares is one of the best players in the league, and I don't think you want to say that he's not trying. I think he's giving it He's giving it, not his all, but he's giving a lot of effort. And I just think he's run down. I just think it's the players around him. But he's the mother hen of the team. But it's not all him. It's the other players. And if John Tavares had a terrible year this year, which he has not, he's been really, really doing great. But after a terrible start. But if it was on him, I feel like he'd be more sympathetic to the whole situation. But the fact that it's the team, the fact that it's his defense, his goaltending, his other forwards, it's just the whole team that's doing bad right now. It's not just him. That's what's going to tempt him to leave. That's what's going to tempt him to get on the phone with the Maple Leafs. He knows how good of a player he is, and he knows what he can be. And he's not going to put his future, in jeopardy to stay with the Islanders. He's going to, no matter how hard he's trying right now, that's debatable. I think he's trying pretty hard. He just, went after a puck in the corner. He's skating so hard right now. I think he's trying, and I disagree with you saying he's not trying, and players like Leddy and Boychuk are. I think he is, but he's trying as hard as he can, but that's not enough with this team. It's not enough. So that's the unfortunate part. That's what's going to be the reason why he's not an Islander if he isn't. But, his trying is, it's not everything. So, Chris, I don't know what your rebuttal to that is.
Yeah, so I just want to say two things real quickly. One, I'm not sure if Tavares maybe looks at it as, I doubt he cares what people think about him, but what if people look at him as the guy who almost, I don't know if you want to say the Kevin Durant, where if we don't trade him or sign him this offseason and he goes to a place that would better him, but I feel like in hockey it's more of kudos to that guy. He went to where he could actually win and not go on a super team, so to say, like Durant. But I don't know. I just don't know if he'd rather want to leave a legacy on the island, maybe as the guy who didn't give up on him, and then who knows what could happen in the future. But and then the second thing I want to ask is, Scott, you said before after the whole Lee quote how you think it's disappointing that he's in the box. Now, did you mean that as in disappointing that he went out there and fought, or just something else?
I think I don't want to interrupt, but I think it's the fact that he had to fight. It's the fact that he's the one who needed to do it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so Scott, I that was sounded perfect in my head, but
Yeah, David, I kind of agree. What I'm saying is Dale Weiss, Gordie Howe hat trick tonight. He scored. Wayne Simmons fought against Anders Lee. I feel bad for the guys that have had to fight. Hamonic is trying to risk his life out there, basically. Remember, he wanted to get traded, and then he realized how much he loved being an Islander, and then he removed his trade request. He had to go out and fight. Now he's out, because him and Lee, they fought because they being Islanders. I feel bad for them having to fight.
all right, guys, so we've had this podcast for a while. It's been 7 episodes now, and I feel like even though we, are just a bunch of kids, we haven't gotten as fired up as this episode. We've been more cordial, but, just watching this debacle that's been the Islanders-Flyers game on March 30th, it really is a shame that, this had to happen, and we got pretty fired up about it. I think Brian Compton got pretty aggravated about it, too. So, it's a sad day. By the time this is released and you guys are hearing this, the Islanders will most likely be out of the playoffs. And that's a sad, sad thought, but it's a thought that is reality. So, we're going to transition more into the offseason. We're going to transition more into John Tavares. We're going to transition more into the arena. And that's just how it's going to have to go. So, just bringing up the site. The site has been, going great recently. It's been tough with how bad we've been, but there's, I feel like there's always speculation with the Islanders. They're going to get Matt Duchene. They're going to get Jordan Eberle. They're going to get Steven Stamkos. But unfortunately, it's going to be a new, cloud around the Islanders. It's not going to be who we're getting. It's going to be who we're possibly losing. And John Tavares is that player. So stay tuned for a lot of John Tavares information, more than you probably want. But with that, we're going to end it here. Thank you so much to Brian Compton for coming on to the show. That makes 3 amazing guests, and we're going to keep them coming for you guys. So thank you to the people who listened to this whole episode, and have a great night, guys.